Hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. We are doing our deck check-in again and looking at Rakdos the Showstopper. So this is all about reviewing decks, so I'm kind of taking a look at decks, and these are usually, a lot of stuff it covers is budget. These are definitely, a lot of these at least are not budget. I guess occasionally I do a budget one on here, but yeah. So we are taking a look at Rakdos the Showstopper. This is a commander with a selective board wipe attached. Again, so he's got a selective board wipe, which is a really powerful thing for a commander. So yeah, let's take a look at that. First up, so he is 4 and Rakdos. Of course, the color combination is named after this character. So yeah, Rakdos is Rakdos. Anyway, for black red, we're going to talk about that. Flying Trample. For a 6/6 Flying Trample, Flying and Trample is an odd combination, but it's a very good combination because, like, unless they've got maybe dragons, there's not usually flyers are lower toughness, so you're probably going to be able to get through with that more. Anyway, when Rakdos the Showstopper enters the battlefield, flip a coin. Each creature that isn't a demon, devil, or imp, destroy each creature whose coin comes up tails. So yeah, you're going to do a coin toss for every non-imp, non-devil, non-demon, and anyone that comes up tails, creature gets destroyed. So 50% chance of destroying everyone else's stuff, basically. Yeah. Rakdos the Showstopper. So this deck comes at 328.39, which is much better than average, at least. So remember, this is an actual deck, right? This is an actual played deck. It's not just a hypothetical one on Moxfield. This was built by the same person who did the Miri and Garth decks that were covered earlier. So the same person has built these three. So you kind of start to get a feel of the kind of decks they like to build and the way they build them. Anyway, thoughts on Rakdos. So again, this is a Rakdos commander. Yeah, Rakdos is Rakdos. Hey, his board wipe is very dramatic with a coin toss for each creature. Like, for each creature, you're probably going to be doing a coin toss. So when it comes out, it is like an event kind of thing. I love the drama. I do. It's also great because you can build a deck around not using it to hit your own creatures, right? This is one of those kind of broad kindred builds where it's very flexible, actually, right? Demons, devils, and imps actually have a good amount of variability, and there's a lot of different selection there, especially with demons. I think demons are the number one, probably imp there's a lot, and then devils there's the least, but anyway. So Rakdos the Showstopper. The important creature types with this commander are demons, devils, and imps, as I said. They are not hit by his ETB coin toss board wipe as opponents. So yeah, this is one where you can really take advantage of just like being able to like cut the board down a lot. It's not going to destroy everything, but it is going to, it's almost like a whole different usage, I think, than an actual board wipe, because it's really more about like equalizing than anything. So yeah. The primary drawback to this commander is its casting costs. 6 is very high for a commander, right? A lot of times if a commander is up around 6, you don't generally want to do that. In this case, I think it's worthwhile. They have to have an ability that makes it very worthwhile, right? So this kind of selective board wipe is almost like something that would cost you 4 more mana. So having it on your commander and your commander costs 6, still kind of worth it, you know? Rakdos' ETB is doubly useful. It will even out the board. Again, it will equalize things, right? It takes you longer to cast things, but once you cast them, you're just going to be blowing up half the board, so it's alright. Again, yeah, it's a slow start, but it gives a disincentive to sending him back to the command zone. So there's the other kind of meta benefit there, is that they don't really want to send him back to the command zone because he's just going to come out again and like blow up the board. So it's like, do I want to cause another board wipe or do I leave him alone? Yeah, there's this kind of a psychological aspect there. Star cards. Okay, so this deck needs ramp early to get, and then comes in with disastrous attack power for the win. Ramp is always important in a deck where you have a commander with a high CMC. It is way more important, which is kind of unfortunate because ramp isn't really something that red or black are good at generally. Higher CMC creatures need to get out of the gate fast. That's why there's a lot of haste. So again, to make up for that kind of lag, you've got your commander that'll blow up half the board, and then your actual creatures are just going to come in with haste a lot of time. So yeah. Ramp. Wayfarer's Bauble. Again, this is a great one. That's less popular maybe than it was a couple of years ago, but still. I should be putting this in more decks. I really should. Okay, so for 1, it's an artifact. You can pay 2 and tap it to search a library for a basic land card. Put that card into the battlefield, tap, and then shuffle. Sorry, you pay 2, tap, and sacrifice it is what I meant to say. Herald of Slaanesh. So, any of you Warhammer fans out there will know this one. For 2 and a red, demon spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. Other demons you control have haste. The haste is super important. The mana cost reduction. Again, that's not really ramp. Cost reduction is like the same thing in this deck, especially. We need the ramp to pay for the demons. So if it's making the demons cost less, it's ramp. Really, it's the same thing. Big score. So an additional cast of the spell. Cost of the spell. Cost to cast the spell. Discard a card. Alright, draw 2 cards and create 2 treasure tokens. So yeah. You do have to discard, but it's 2 cards and 2 treasures. Like, that's a good amount of ramp as well, right? Gilded Lotus. Alright, so for 5, I think this should be a lot more popular. I see why it's not though, but yeah. You can tap it to add 3 mana of any one color. So adding 3 mana on one thing. If you compare it to like Arcane Signet, maybe it doesn't seem so good because Arcane Signet's only 2 mana and you get 1 color mana, but this is 5 for 3. I think the exchange is still worth it, right? If you added up 3 Arcane Signets, that's 6 mana for 3, and this is 5 for 3, right? It is, it's compact on 1 card, that's an advantage, but also it means it's a target. So there's a give and take there, definitely. And Mahadi, Emporium Master, for only 3, right? He is legendary, and at the beginning of your end step, again, your end step, not each, unfortunately, create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn. So again, if you have him out and you cast your commander, you're probably just making like a hoard of treasure. You kind of need the ramp before your commander comes out, but he can do that too, right? Anything dying during your turn, you're going to end up drawing treasures. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. Your commander is, like, high cost is very much mitigated if you're just like making a pile of treasure tokens when it comes in. So yeah. Haste. Again, Herald of Slaanesh we already talked about. Demons you control have haste. This is mostly demons, so that's going to affect most things. Rising of the Day. Again, creatures you control have haste. It's not limited to demons now. Legendary creatures you control get +1. Yeah, sure, why not? You want the haste. That's what you're really looking for. Anger. Okay. It does have haste, and it's a 2/2 for 3 in a red, and as long as it's in your graveyard and you control a mountain, all of your creatures get haste. So this is kind of like a graveyard, enchanting the whole board from the graveyard. Very, very useful ability. Arena of Glory. So it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain. Again, you're going to control a mountain probably. You can add a red, or you can exert it. That means you tap it and it stays tapped through the next turn. Add 2 red. Yeah, if that mana is spent on a creature spell, it has haste until end of turn. I think this is very worth it, right? You can, you do have to pay 1 red and tap it and exert it to get that, but it's ultimately costing you 3 mana, right? You have to spend 1 mana, you don't get 1 mana, and you don't get a mana the next turn. So it is costing you 3 to get 2, but you're getting that haste is probably going to be worthwhile. Finally, Sneak Attack. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste. Sacrifice the creature at the beginning of the next end step. This deck has lots of creatures with just like ETBs. What you really want the creature for is to like just play it, get the ETB, and then if it sacks at the end of the turn, sure, why not? I mean, really, you can play it, get the ETB, just swing with it, right? It has haste, so you're just gonna like throw it straight at someone. And if they block it and it dies, well, that's what's going to happen anyway. So, whatever. Tutors. Okay, tutors are very important because you need to have some control. Especially in high CMC decks, you need to be playing... When you're playing a card, it has to be the card that you need. Diabolic Intent. So for 1 and a black, as additional cost to this, sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a card. You may put that card into your hand, then shuffle. Burning Rune Demon for black. It is a flyer 6/6, a 6/6 flyer, I should say. And when Burning Rune Demon enters the battlefield, you may search your library for exactly 2 cards not named the same that have different names. Again, Commander Singleton, so this whole bunch of rules doesn't matter. If you do, reveal those cards. An opponent chooses one of those, and then put the chosen card into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Then shuffle your library. Okay, win cons in this do involve just like mass bringing things out of your graveyard. So when they're making that choice, they're probably going to choose the one they don't want on the battlefield, and it's going to end up on the battlefield anyway, right? Scheming Symmetry. 1 black only. I wish I'd picked these up when it was cheaper. Choose 2 players, they each get a card, basically, yeah. They each tutor a card, so you have to give a tutor to someone else. Just try to be careful, it's not, you know, you're getting your win con, or they're not going to be able to get something they really desperately need. And Razaketh, the Foul-Blooded, very expensive at 8. Flying Trample, pay 2 life, sacrifice another creature, search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, shuffle your library. So this is just a repeatable tutor. You can do every turn, or more if you can untap him. That's just nuts. Alright, Yagroth, Blood Sky Sire. Again, this is a demon rogue. He has Death Touch and Boast. Okay, so Boast, when he attacks, you pay the Boast cost, and then you get this benefit. Target player searches the library for a card, then shuffles their library and puts that card on top of it. So this is going to let you, every time he attacks, you can do this and like get whatever card you want to the top. It's always going to like set you up for the next card draw. The plan. Okay, so how does this deck play? Step 1 is ramp and cost reduction. Step 2, counter chaos. Step 3, win cons. Okay, so first up, the ramp and cost reduction. We already talked about that, so I'm not going to go over it again. But yeah, what stands out to me is really Mahadi Emporium Master. You want to get him out very, very quickly. If you need to use a tutor to do it, do it. Counter chaos. So I'm not talking about counter spells. I'm talking about like countering tactics. There is a counter spell in here, but that's not the point. Okay? Anyway. Obnixilis Unshackled. Okay, so Flying Trample, 4/4 for 6. And whenever an opponent searches his or her library, that player sacrifices a creature and loses 10 life. So really, especially in Commander, people are going to be searching their decks all the time, just to do like all kinds of different things. And this is going to cost them 10 life and a creature every time. Whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Obnixilus Unshackled. So he's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger as that happens. Plague Drone. This is one I hadn't actually seen before. I've got to get some of these. Only 4, it's a 3/3 flyer, which isn't great, but the real shiny bit is Rotfly. If an opponent would gain life, that player loses that much life instead. So any life gain decks, they're just draining themselves out instead of like getting that insurmountable lead. That's amazing. Jessica's Will, I think, is probably the most well-known card on my list here. So for 2 and a red, choose 1. If you control your commander as you cast a spell, choose both. I love the cards that let you choose both in your commander. So add a red for each card in target opponent's hand. Again, turning their card draw into your mana is the counterpart of that, and it's amazing. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. And that is also a super important part. With this deck, again, you want to be able to get what you need. Every cast has to matter. In high CMC, it's about making every spell really count and be the spell you need. So more of these effects you have, the better. Rakdos Charm. So the one I focus on here is the 3rd mode, which is each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. That is super, super good. And yeah, any kind of token strategy is going to shut it down. Tybalt's Trickery. Okay, it lets you counter target spell and then choose 1, 2, or 3 at random. Its controller mills that many cards, then exiles the cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card with a different name than that spell. They may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then they put the exiled cards on the bottom of their library in a random order. So it's a whole bunch of text, but it's a red counter spell. I was interested in this when it first came out, and it was cheaper. I wish I'd picked up, again, another thing where I'm going, why didn't I pick up a bunch of these when I was like, red counterspell? Yep. Anyway. Wincons. Sword of Discord. So as it enters the battlefield, choose 2 players whenever whenever damage is dealt to one of the chosen players, the other chosen player also loses that much life. So you're basically making it so they both lose life together. Very, very, very good. Choose like someone you can like hit easily and someone that's really a hassle to hit, and just like keep hitting the easy one and then drain out the tough one. Fiendish Duo. So for 4 red, it's a 5/5 with first strike. So if a source would deal damage to an opponent, it deals double damage to that player instead. A source, not a source you control, just a source. Anything hitting an opponent is going to do double damage. It doesn't specify things you control, and it doesn't specify anything other than an opponent, right? This doesn't affect you, it only affects... Oh, crazy. Finally, Relentless Assault for 2 and 2 red. Untap all creatures that attack this turn. After this main phase, there is an additional combat phase, followed by an additional main phase. So this is just like making a bunch of extra phases. Like, 2 extra phases is a lot. A 3rd main phase and a 2nd combat phase, oh boy. Anger. We talked about anger already. Really, this is wincon number 2. It's just about your creatures having haste. It doesn't have to be anger. It can be any of the haste cards. Last one standing. So choose a creature at random. Destroy the rest. Alright? With this, you actually want a bunch of your stuff in the graveyard to do this. So this is ideal. And finally, Bringer of the Last Gift. So when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, each player sacrifices all other creatures they control, then each player returns all creatures' cards from their graveyard that weren't put there this way onto the battlefield. Again, if they have like a whole bunch, a big graveyard, maybe you don't want to cast Last One Standing if they have a lot on the battlefield. You just want to do, Bringer of the Last Gift. What you really want there is just like your own stuff to be in the graveyard, not necessarily theirs. So Bringer of the Last Gift is also great to use with sneak attack, right? Paying that 1 red, getting the ETB, and then just like all of your stuff comes back out and hopefully has haste, and then you just take the game right there. Entome. Okay, win con number 3, sorry, Entome. Search the library for a card, put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle. So it's kind of a tutor. It's a tutor to your graveyard rather than to your hand or top of deck. Command the Dread Horde. So choose any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers in your graveyard. Command the Dread Horde deals damage to you equal to the converted mana cost of those cards. There is a fair amount of lifelink in this deck. You need that to set this up. Put them into the battlefield under your control. Remember, you can take things from any graveyard, right? Not only yours. This lets you steal from everyone's graveyard and just throw them onto the battlefield. Once again, Rising of the Day, all I mean by that is the haste, right? You want to have the haste ready so that you can throw them onto the battlefield and just take the game right there. Finally, win con number 4, Liliana's Contract. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 or more demons with different names, you win the game. Just win the game like that. Just starting your turn with demons, which you have. Your commander and 3 more and you win. Oh boy. Finishers. Okay, so Altar of Dementia, which I think could be useful in this deck, but I'm kind of like on the fence on that one. You do have a lot of creatures that have like high toughness, so you can potentially do a lot, but you're still going to need someone to have like gone through a decent amount of their deck to be able to pull this off. I think when it's down to like 1v1, this might be very useful, and or to remove a big problem player. Captive Audience. Okay, so this is something you cast on an opponent, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, choose one that hasn't been chosen. Your life total becomes 4. Discard your hand. Each opponent creates 5 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. So this doesn't actually directly win the game, but it's gonna like probably on the 3rd one, they're probably gonna have to choose that, reduce your life to 5, and then it's pretty easy to just knock them out from there. Suggestions. Okay, so here I'm looking for upgrade cards that serve the same established strategies using what I consider to be budget cards that $2 or less on TCG Player. Not a sponsor, I said it, Fish Sticks, or at least a reduction in cost. Okay, so suggestions. This deck was built carefully and thoughtfully, right? So this is built by someone who really does know what they're doing. Many suggestions are more ideas than absolute improvements. So again, I'm saying suggestions, not upgrades, right? This is not saying like, oh, you should have done this or something. Yeah, no. It's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not hypothetical. Never mind. Okay. I'm not gonna get it. Replaceable cards. Lizard blades. Anyway, gives double strike. That's nice. We could do better, I think. Bitter Reunion. The main thing here is, you can sacrifice it for 1 mana. You can sacrifice it, and all your creatures gain haste until end of turn. I feel like you don't need that. There's a good amount of haste already. Diabolic Intent. I think this is the one that people are going to be most like, well, that seems like a card you don't want to take out, but yeah, I think we can find something a little bit better. or at least better in this deck. Sin Prodder, at the beginning of your, you know, I won't bother reading it, but yeah. You can have an opponent, like, look at the top card of your deck and, like, yeah, put it into your graveyard, and if they do, they take damage. Okay, so basically, you're sending your lands to the graveyard, and you do need ramp. I think this is kind of, like, not a good combination in this deck, but okay. Felwar Stone. Okay, Felwar Stone I like, but in a 2-color deck, your opponents are definitely going to have, like, at least one of your colors, if not both, but why even risk it? You know? But anyway. Lizard Blades. Lizard Blades. I don't know why I can't say that. The Spear of Leonidas. I actually featured this recently in an episode. Alright. For 2 in a red, whenever a quick creature attacks, choose 1. Bull Rush, it gains double strike until end of turn. Summon, you can make a 3/2 legendary horse. Remember, legendary means you can only have 1 at a time. Or discard 2 cards, then draw 2 cards. The discard draw thing is really, really good. Discard you can use to set up your, like, your wincons to get everything out of the graveyard and just attack with it, or you can be drawing cards, which you really need to do with this deck. Either way, I think that's a win. Or the double strike, of course, which is what Lizard Blades does. Bitter Reunion. Yeah. Again, you can discard a card to and play this to draw 2 cards? Yeah, I don't know. It's okay. But Black Market, whenever another creature dies, not creature you control, just another creature dies, put a charge counter on Black Market. So at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add a black for each charge counter on Black Market. That's just gonna get you so much mana. Oh my gosh. Diabolic Intent, I would switch for Illicit Shipment. The real advantage there is that it has casualty 3. Mana cost is way higher, right? 1 black versus 3 black. 2 versus 5. But Illicit Shipment gets you 2 cards instead of 1, and you can sacrifice a creature. The sacrificing a creature lets you set up, so you can get that ETB, sacrifice it, bring it back into the graveyard, get the ETB again. It's really all about, like, setting up that and the one win con, or just like getting win cons. Really, that's what you want to do with this deck. You want to have that every single casting matters thing, and tutoring 2 cards definitely does that much better, I think. Also, they go to your hand, not to the top of your library. I guess they both sacrifice though, so maybe that doesn't. Anyway, the copying thing is worth it. Replace Sin Prodder. Again, we talked about that already. And Flayer of the Hatebound. It has Undying, so when this creature dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, basically it comes back, bounces right back with a +1/+1 counter. And whenever whenever he or another creature enters the battlefield from your graveyard, that creature deals damage equal to its power to any target. So if you're bringing him, or if he's on the battlefield and you do that bring a whole bunch of creatures out of the graveyard thing, you're just doing a massive pile of damage, right? Summon the Dread Horde becomes just like, you eliminate one player and then you've got everything on the board you need to take out another player. Oh, that is some synergy there. Felwar Stone, I would change with Relic of Legends, so it can add 1 mana of any color, or you can tap any untapped legendary creature you control and add 1 mana of any color. So all of your legendary creatures are just mana dorks. Final thought. Okay, so this is a very aggressive deck that is a lot of fun as well. This can be a hard line to walk. I think a lot of times when people make these very aggressive decks, they make it like just to get the win, not really for enjoyment. So this is, I can see this being a lot of fun to play against. Even the coin toss and having all your creatures blow up kind of sounds fun. I mean, I'd get my stuff blown up, but the tension is palpable. Anyway, it really plays into the big drama that Rakdos can offer. Yeah, it's like very dramatic swings and all of that make for interesting games, that's for sure. Anyway, take it easy.